I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everyone for coming, and normally we would approve our minutes, but our secretary is off visiting her son since last month. So we'll do that next meeting. We'll do both January's and February's at that point. So we'll go on to the treasurer report.
I'll do with my copy. Looking for this one. Okay, treasurer's report. The operations account has $1,511.23. The money market account has $630,005.90. Our annuity that is a gateway that will mature at the end of March is still $185,986.39.
Did you write that?
Did I write it down?
No, I'm just saying.
No. Can't be.
This last week it's probably
Well,
changed a little
we only
bit.
get an annual statement,
Oh.
so if it's changed, we won't know. Did you guys review the January innkeeper's tax? Probably didn't have that number last month, did you?
Yeah.
38,915.95. Yeah. Significantly different than last year. So, if you want to, I would move that we approve that treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or question? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye. All right. Okay, so the county council approved our budget and our budget worksheet that has our expense codes and general ledger account numbers. So I provided that number to you on that worksheet that shows our budget was $420,000 was what we conservatively budgeted for based on the 10-year average of innkeeper's tax. So with that being said, you can see the transfer amounts that are in there that we would like to transfer $600,000 out of our money market account and move it to the auditor's office to begin the claims process running through there in more compliance with the State Board of Accounts. So I just chose $600,000 so we could leave that account open so when the annuity clears, we could deposit it and then close out the account. And I believe we had to have a $30,000 minimum in there was what they requested. So the goal for the last couple of years was to try to eliminate our own checkbook and checking accounts so we could be more compliant. And through the audit that the State Board of Accounts was performing the last couple of weeks, it was very apparent that we needed to make this change. So the first step was establishing the budget, getting the county council to approve the budget and the worksheet with the codes. And then the next step is us approving the transfer of funds and then moving into submitting claims through their process like all the other boards in the county.
Thanks for taking care of.
So you need a motion?
Yeah.
I move that we transfer this money to this county.
I'll second.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
I think that's it.
Lucy?
Is it okay to come up here and go
Sure.
over the last one?
Mhm.
I don't have a very long report, but I want to hit some highlights for you. Last week, BMI had their strategic planning meeting. We reviewed, I gave everyone a copy in case they need to read it, and I can email it to you as well. We went over board responsibilities for nonprofits, and we built on the plan from 2021 instead of starting from scratch. Having the same board, or similar board, and staff members provides a lot of consistency, so we can start working on goals instead of recreating the wheel. We added the motor trail, Project 365, and convention group and tour management, and possible relocation of the visitor center to our plan. It's been talked about probably since we moved off Main Street that we should be on Main Street. So I've been talking to a lot of different people, including Councilman Chatham, about what that would look like and who may want to reside there beyond just BMI. Under staffing, we have, if we get our budget approved for 2022, we would like to begin our search for our executive director. We have board members who have already volunteered to serve on that selection committee. Our BMI office staff recently completed some record keeping, pulling together all the minutes and treasury reports from both boards, compiling those both electronically and hard copy to kind of have a backup after what the hospital's been through. We figured those documents being in both forms would serve both boards well. Contracts were also stored and recorded electronically as well. We have begun a process of our annual audit. That will happen in May. We have to get on their schedule. They're very busy. There was a cost increase with that. As you probably saw if you reviewed our budget, it went from $2,200 to $86. We're trying to find some better options, but this company also works with the Community Foundation and Jefferson County Historical Society and can highly recommend it. So just for the new people, as a 501c6, BMI is not required to do those audits, but we do them anyway, and that's also a stipulation in our agreement with you in the contract that we would have those done. So we have those scheduled. Visitor center attendance, January, February of 21, we had 245 visitors. January and February of this year, we had 797 visitors. So first quarter's looking a lot better this year than it did last year. Some of our events, I have quick summaries of those. Chautauqua's expressed a desire to separate from BMI. Probably since the inception of Chautauqua, there's been times, periods of working together and getting things done really well. I think COVID kind of threw some extra stress in there. So both parts of Chautauqua are going to be working on what do we do, how do we do it, how can we work this out, because this is a community event. A lot of people rely on it to go over well, so we have an obligation to figure that out. So we'll both be sitting down, the volunteer committee as well as representatives from BMI, to see what we can work out and try to get this back on track. Riverfest, they are celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. And the volunteer committee and our event coordinator, who's here tonight, Erin Kendall, they're planning for the best Riverfest ever. So, but they also have had challenges financially and otherwise. COVID definitely threw a wrench in a lot of different factors, but they keep plugging forward. It's a great group to work with. So they're on track to make the best impact they can for the community. Also another community event. Sometimes it's referred to VMI events, but they really are community events, and we simply guide and help and do what we can to make it go well. Girls Weekend, the marketing department has assisted with some marketing, promotion, QR code development. They also have worked with them on lodging for people who are staying all weekend. Taste of Ireland, this is a smaller event, but it was also created first quarter quite a few years ago. I'm thinking 10 to 15 years ago. There's multiple tourism partners involved in that. Tickets are on sale now. You can get those at VMI or on Eventbrite, both. And it is a Thursday event, so this is definitely something like a 365 project, trying to extend those weekend stays and get people here longer. For all these events, we're doing a time and financial assessment. We talked about that last year, about how many hours are spent, what does it cost BMI? Is it worth it? Should we be doing more? Should we be doing less? Should we find volunteers to help with that? So that process has begun, and we're working our way through different events to make sure that we're spending our time well and wisely. We attended the last meeting for the Tourism Alliance. That was last week. As you know, that's an initiative that was started by this group. And at first there were people that were reluctant it could just be something else we'd have to do. But I think the 7 that stuck it out, that 7th, 8th seat was alternating. There were different people that would show up, but consistently at least 7 groups were represented all the time. Originally there were 18 invited, and we knew people would drop off, and we asked Dan and Michael about that, and they said people drop off, people come on, just the people who stay are invested, and they will stay the course to make things happen. So we're really encouraged by what could come out of that. The last few meetings were really, really good. And that one tourism effort, BMI offered to carry on the next meeting. We agreed to meet quarterly. So everybody, I wish Wendy were here because she got a lot out of it. She participated a lot. She was representing you at the last meeting. And, but that one tourism effort, we always felt like we were collaborating and working together with different organizations, but they wanted us to look at it in a different way. And I think they succeeded in that. I look forward to their report. I think you're supposed to they said they'd have that in March. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Did you want me to discuss the contract, or did you want?
You can let her go and then we'll come back to the
Okay.
after that. Keep the flow going.
Sounds good. Sent you guys everything last week. Didn't kill a tree, bring it to you, so hopefully you guys got a chance to review it, so I'll go over the highlights. But since the last time I seen you, the visitor guide is completed and online, and we will be receiving those this week. So excited about getting those out. We currently are down to our last box at the visitor center. So we are tracking all of that and where they go, and adding that to our weekly numbers. I think it's been up since the 11th of February, and we've had over 600 views of the online version of that. And last year we upgraded the publication service to be interactive and digital links and all that. So over 250 links have been added to that digital version. So that's exciting and new. We have also been collaborating with Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail Experience, the Ohio River Recreational Trail, which is changing their name to Ohio Riverway. We've been working, we're serving on those committees to offer that tourism piece, that tourism element to their committees. And Jefferson County, we're seen as a community that they look to. We are constantly referred to in their meetings, and that's really rewarding to hear. And it seems that all of our information that we have gotten together, it's a guide for other communities on what they can do. But we've been working with them to get the GIS files and stuff from our surveyor, and just all these other things that we can do to help enhance their site, which leads back to our site. So there's that. We will be attending the Indiana Tourism Association conference coming up here in a couple weeks. We submitted 4 entries for their awards. The guide, the digital marketing campaign that we did with Cincinnati Magazine that you guys made, some of you will remember was very successful. We submitted the night before Christmas candlelight to our colonies, which was a record year ever. And then we did our COVID campaign that we did for the 2020 Stay in Cash giveaway. So excited to see what others have done and who we contend against. So there's that. The Jefferson County Economic Impact Report for tourism came in. I emailed that to you guys on Friday. I did some highlights on that, but we're expecting these numbers to be down, just for obvious reasons, right?
This is the Rockport.
This is the Rockport Analytic Tourism Jefferson County Economic Impact, and 2019 we were at $44.8 million tourism economic impact industry, and it went down 8% to 41.3. So there were some key findings that I had emailed in there, but it'll be just consistent to get this report and be able to compare as we move forward. So we've had this report consistently since 2017. For whatever reason, they skipped 16, so we have 15, and then 17, 18, 19, 20. Just something interesting that I think I noted in the email, the tourism spend has always been food and beverage. Every year it was always the highest at like 35, 36%. And this year, retail, for 2020, retail moved up to that, which really I think is indicative to our community and everything that they were doing to be creative businessmen and women during that time and during that crisis, and dabbling into like e-commerce and going live on Facebook and all these other different kinds of things. So delivering and taking online and phone orders and that kind of stuff. So anyway, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But so there's that, and that link that I gave you goes to all the other ones in the past too, so you have them at your leisure. Here's the guide. I'm sure you guys can go look if you didn't already see the advertisements for it, but this is a little neon because of our printer, so don't it looks a little right, but anyway, really excited about this. We have all of our new itineraries from our new website in here. That's a big initiative on our marketing strategy plan, and just trying to make it the best it can be every year. Just moving things around design-wise and whatnot. So excited for all the QR codes that are in here, and what it does and the value that it brings to all of our tourism partners. I gave you guys it's a sheet that's in the visitor guide, but I just always seems people like to know events, and this is an updated version from the one that I gave you from the Indiana Festivals Association, because it has all the boat visits on it. Again, all this stuff is on our website. It's in the book, but I just thought maybe you guys wanted a handy dandy piece of paper for your calendars. But Music at the Mansion is back. I was able to secure those dates with our the new site director at Lanier, so they're going to be doing Sunday evenings, June, July, and August. And again, the boats are in there. The Indiana Bass Federation tourneys are in there. I'll be working with the Historical Society on Madison and Bloom. It is going to happen this year. So those are back-to-back weekends, June 11th and 12th and 18th and 19th. So a lot of good things. And I'll digress.
So on the Rockport report, they talk about, those are the numbers for Indiana, correct?
So yeah, they get the numbers from the
whole state,
DOR,
right?
Yeah, and they compare. I'm actually, I reached out to the state last week to get their numbers. They have not posted them yet on the Visit Indiana site. They do post their total state economic impact on there. They do not do the counties, of course, that were participants.
How did it look across the other states? Were they all down around that same 8%, or?
Again, I haven't seen,
Okay.
that. I think that when we look at just even our number one KPI in the innkeeper tax, and how we were down 27-ish%, and most people were 50, 60, 70, even more down. So I'd say we were above average on what we were down versus the others. But I hope to find more information for you, and I will pass that along as soon as I get it.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for giving these bullets, these little snippets.
You're welcome.
They're really helpful.
You're welcome.
So this contract came on just right for the last meeting. I don't know if you had a chance to review it, or just a couple of changes compared to just the dates and the updates for the budget. Any questions?
I think I've shared this with Lucy before when we were talking about the budget. So the total request for us is $294 plus the $111 for marketing, is that right?
Correct.
So $400,000. And we estimated roughly $420,000 in revenue. So just like to, we're back, I don't want to say we're back to, but we are looking at approving the same amount that we're bringing in revenue potentially. So just for the new members as a talking point, have you guys been able to find any more revenue streams yet, or any way to come up with more?
We have ideas in progress, but nothing that is set in stone,
Sure.
that we can report on that.
So the biggest increase comes in salaries for executive director and benefits, and is there additional part-time help in there, or marketing? What was the
Well,
other part?
we hired an additional marketing person last year, and we have a part-time guest services person. Our biggest expense, yes, is salary.
Sure.
And it takes people to make it happen, so. And we often talked last year about capacity, and it was an issue, not having
Sure.
the capacity to get things done. And if you look at the total brought in, you know, that's a cost of doing business for it's a $41 million industry right now, which was almost 45 the previous year. And somebody's got to get the work done because, you know, you're a fiscal body and you're in charge of the money, of course, but somebody has to execute the work.
Yeah.
But I understand the concern.
Yeah,
We
and I don't
talked
really
about
want it
that
to be a
often.
concern, I mean, that was one of the things we had talked about when we came in as a new board, was trying to make sure that we were planning for the next COVID, to make sure we had some funds available to do that, so.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to write a check out for everything that we bring in, so. And we were conservative when we did our budget, because I think we kind of know what that 10-year looks like, so. But and that's really the only thing, I mean,
Sure.
the rest of it's pretty much what we've already went through, it's just the staffing of it. mean, I guess, not to let them carry all the burden, but, the city gives a small amount and the county gives a small amount, and I know we're gonna say that the innkeeper's tax is, why the county kind of overlooks it, but I think now's the time to have that conversation that, and I know we had some conversation with Debbie and Hanover, and, you and I and the mayor talked about an interlocal to share some of those tourism expenses. So, just want to put that out there to make sure that we're, maybe we're looking at every opportunity to gather some revenue from the other groups that are going to benefit as well. And I know it doesn't show it, the city, of course, contributes to Main Street, and then they have some other, in our budget, there's some other organizations we hit as well. But specifically for VMI, the largest hub of that marketing machine gets a small amount. So what would happen if JCBT had a director, a tourism director that worked with VMI to execute their plan, and they were still that marketing hub? So what if you guys didn't carry the burden of a director and we hired a director that
It's actually not a burden.
would be that liaison between VMI and our board? As we've always, I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting that goes on with our board the last couple of years, and we always get back to, is anybody working close, who are you guys reaching out to? Are we reaching out to them? And we're all volunteers, so I'm just wondering what's it look like if we invest in a director that, I don't want to say manages, but works collaboratively with them, with Main Street, with the city, Hanover, these other entities. Would that person reside under the commissioners? Would it work under the board? What do we do with that?
Well, the way VMI structure is right now, the board of directors manage the organization. So for an outside entity to be the director, to manage VMI would completely change, we would have to completely change our structure. I've never heard of a fiscal body doing that, hiring, you aren't really made up to hire employees, but I guess you could.
Well, that's why I asked you. I mean, maybe it's not us hiring, it's us allocating. And again, I don't know if it's where that person resides. I'm just trying to look at it as that director's who you're trying to get to recruit events and activities here, right?
Well, we have a job description. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what that director role would be.
Well,
in managing
the director's
staff.
role is it's very complex. I didn't bring it with me.
No, that's okay. I'm just kind
I
of
should've.
throwing it out here, figuring out what that.
So,
I think there's other counties that have tourism directors that are part of, whether it's the Board of Tourism or whatever. I
Yeah.
understand they have some.
We've been looking at that option if we can collaborate with the chamber, with Main Street, what that would look like. But if you're allocating funds for an employee to the Board of Tourism employee, what's the difference between allocating the funds to VMI?
I think that for me,
understand
and maybe
that.
I'm wrong, the obvious for me is that person's going to definitely execute our plans as a board to promote tourism, and we have again, not control that person, but we have a strategy in place for that person to go execute, and they would essentially work for our board, similar to what I think other counties have. I'm just trying to think of it differently than the way we've done it in the past. I mean, I know there's a need for a director regardless of if it's with you guys or with, wherever. You guys need that person that's, managing your staff on the day-to-day because your board, as you have lived that for the last 2 years, can't continue to happen. So, But I'm asking more for Dave, I guess, because I don't think that we can manage an employee. Yeah.
Did we discuss a sliding scale last year? If our revenue goes up, didn't we discuss that, like 80-20 or something like that?
There's a part in there about that, but I don't even remember what it would be.
That also covers us if COVID happens and we go down.
Thanks.
So we only
So
talked
that
about
was all
going
of it
down.
last year.
Now that's reflective of this year's number, I think. 293 is this year's number,
It's
294, 364.
Trevor, is what you're referring to, 3D?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is built into the contract.
Is there, I mean, I haven't attended any of the strategic plans of the One Tourism. Is there discussion about collaborating with one director there? Has that been part of the conversation?
No.
With some of the larger groups or?
It's been about collaboration between the
Each
individual
entity.
entities, taking on parts of projects and working together.
But I think as we mentioned, I mean, the Chamber's looking for a director, VMI is gonna hopefully advertise for a director, so I think if there's ever a time to look, it's now. Or at least discuss it, and I don't know if it's a discussion with VMI's board, if it's a discussion with the Chamber's board, if it's a conversation with Main Street of trying to, you know,
Yes, to all those.
seeing what that looks like.
Our contract expires at the end of March, so, right.
Yeah, yeah. And our goal was to get it on here tonight, so we got some conversation, so hopefully we could have an approval for it at our next meeting to get going. Unless, I mean,
A meeting in with these other groups in the next couple of weeks.
Decrease.
I mean, I feel like we could approve the marketing side of it. Because it's not part of the contract. I mean, it's not a line item within the contract, right?
No, it's not.
But the staff is to execute the marketing plans.
It's complex though.
I think it would be worth the discussions. We may end up here next month, just, it's not the right time for it, but it's time, right now it's time for the discussion. You know,
Sure.
What the other groups have found, or how far along the process they are in hiring or looking or whatever.
How long have you guys been without a director? When did we,
It was a year last week.
I can't remember when that was.
I mean, having worked with several of these organizations, we can certainly have conversation. I'm not sure how, even though they have the same end goal, they all do very different things and serve different purposes in the community. So I don't know how having one person just don't see this being very effective. When you think of Chamber versus Main Street versus Visit Madison, they all do very distinct things with the same goal in mind, but done very differently and run very differently. so I just don't know. I don't know if it's good or not.
There's areas where missions definitely overlap.
Yes, definitely.
And that's where collaboration becomes very, very important to get the best results. But yes, where we have very different missions, it's very difficult to envision having one director for both. But organizations do it. But we aren't going to have a solution to that in the next 4 weeks.
Oh, no.
You know, this is very new, but at least people are open to a creative way of imagining getting the work done differently. So,
What is the complaint that drives the suggestion?
I don't know that there would be a complaint. I think it would be, as they are all doing their own mission, I think they're all in their own lane doing their own thing, so that collaboration seems to be the biggest thing holding us back to present that unified front that we're all trying to get to. That we're all using that same, the branding, the catchphrases, the logos, that type of thing to drive that tourism here. Seems to be that each group is, doing its own thing.
we've always collaborated, but the Tourism Alliance definitely gave us a different way of looking at
Sure.
how we do that. But we always work together.
Yeah.
Lucy, you and I were, go ahead, I'm sorry, Rob.
I'm muttering to myself in my confusion, so go ahead.
Well, Lucy's right there with me and many other people. You and I saw both spectrums. We had an opportunity to see the Chamber and Economic Development with Corey Murphy try to run all of that, and it was impossible, not because of Corey Murphy, but because there were two different missions, and one person was being pulled 80% here and 20% here, and then that was reversed. And it's impossible for one person to do that. Where it succeeds is larger communities where there's a pyramid of checks and balances underneath them, different divisions underneath them, just like a large company. And then once economic development got Bernie and then got Nathan Hadley over here, and then when I was over on the Chamber, one of the greatest teams that I've ever been affiliated with was right in the Chamber. Because why? Because we all were there and we all had different missions, we all were executive directors, and we all communicated on a daily and hourly basis. Mm-hmm. And it was very natural and organic. And at the time, Damon Welch felt that, saw that, and he came over and sat in once a week. And literally once a week, and we all, Echo 15, we had Madison Main Street, we had the Chamber, we had Economic Development, and they would come over. Linda Lytle would come over periodically, but Linda was way over there, and that was a disconnect. But we all sat there and we all had continued conversations, and the synergy was fascinating.
And if you backtrack that just a little bit, before you came on board as the director, the Chamber was the blue panel. The mayor his panel found that we were ineffective,
Absolutely.
inept, all those words, and it really put a fire under us to look at the same thing very differently.
Sure.
It was during economic downturn, 08, 09, I don't know what years you served for sure. So we took it from the Chamber from its lowest point in its history to one of its highest points.
Yep.
We had to be creative and look at things differently. Yep. And we had the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
Board of directors are supposed to be advisory, overseeing a layer of oversight that keeps the train on the track. We aren't supposed to be doing the actual work. And that's what's been going on. Mm-hmm. And it can't, and we aren't reaching our full potential because it's a very part-time job when those board of directors have many, many, many other responsibilities to this community, to their families, to their jobs. So not having a director is one of the major weaknesses for BMI. And I understand what you're saying, that we don't want to go backwards, but it takes a while to change a mentality. And the board is, our board, your board, we've talked about a lot, Curtis, we're there, we're ready for that change, but it takes time. Jefferson County government has given us $1,500 when I was on the board 13, 14, 15 years ago, that's what they gave us. Along the way, there have been special projects like Wonderland where they did give money that was earmarked for Wonderland, and last year I believe we received $3,000, double what the contribution is, but consistently for a very long time, a $40 million industry is being supported with $1,500. That takes time to change that. If we want to do that at city level, city council is going to have to propose a change in our budget. It takes time to make those changes. And we have time, we could still stumble through, but it's not ideal at all. And hiring someone is to oversee us that answers to a different board, I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain about how that would work. I'm 2 years of trying to be open to everything.
Sure.
That doesn't make sense to me any more than it's not always about heads and beds in these kind of meetings. It's something I have a hard time wrapping my brain around.
There's another element to this, of course, and that is at whatever point, assuming that we give the green light, let's go ahead, let's find an executive director for BMI. There's a time window there because any search committee is going to take a period of time in searching, finding the appropriate candidates. So this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow,
Right.
even if we gave the green light tonight.
Tiffany
This
and I
is-
estimated with the financial committee that it would take, it could be June.
I was going to say 4 to 6 months would not be at all
Yeah.
unreasonable. for
We
a
would
good
love it
search
to be
committee.
quicker, but it's more important to get it right than
Yeah.
it is to be quick.
My impression of this whole Visit Madison operation is that it's kind of a very specialized thing. And I've been talking to other people around the state about their visitors bureaus and their boards of tourism. I get the impression that there are all kinds of special qualifications and designations having to do with tourism that probably, in my mind, justify an executive director for BMI. It's not just a management position, it's a specialized kind of management position. Does that sound right?
And of course, none of that's to downplay the level of cooperation and sharing of resources that would benefit all of the organizations we've talked about. Because properly shared, those resources can be dramatically more powerful than they are today. But to Ron's point, that BMI position is a very specialized management situation.
But the 60,800 get a quality person.
They won't be able to start till halfway into the year, so that's why it's not, we would like that, our board approves set up to 75,000 a range, depending on experience and knowledge, education. And we know that we aren't, even if we get this budget approved, it's going to take several months. So we didn't want to ask for the full amount because we won't need it.
Sure.
It can go to something else.
Does that 75 number include benefits and everything?
We figured,
We've got that down
we
in our,
figured that
that's
was
down
as
in
well.
employee benefits and payroll taxes, that's under
Yeah.
bucket 1.
Can I ask this question? This is from education. That is, part of the issue here is that BMI correct me if I misunderstand, but part of the issue is that VMI has been focused on Madison, possibly to an extent that it ignored other parts of the county. Is that what's driving the question?
I mean, personally, for me, what's driving the question is I've spent not nearly the amount of time that Lucy has trying to get VMI straightened up, but the amount of time that I've spent trying to understand that relationship and what we're doing is a lot of hours that, as I said, we're all volunteers. I don't know who can continue to do that. I can't continue to do it, just like she can't continue to be the director as the president of the board.
I see it.
So is there opportunities out in the county that they've missed out on? Possibly, because I don't know that everybody knew what they were doing. I mean, we discovered that with our sports council that, hey, the high school was having an event. They didn't know how to get a hold of anybody or who to contact. However that worked, that was their complaint. So yeah, that's possible, but for me, it's more about the amount of time that we're trying to interact with them. I just felt like maybe it's time for us to consider, because it's a monster. I mean, it's, as she said, it's $44 million, and we're talking about $400,000 is what we've invested into it. I mean, 1% or less than 1% of what that total revenue stream is, and it's the biggest industry we have. And I just feel like it needs a little more guidance and support than just us as a board saying, hey, here's your contract and go, because there's a lot of checks and balances that go along with it that, as I said, take a whole lot of time.
Maybe it's time to raise the bid tax.
Well, I think we'll have that conversation later on. But at the same time, I think I agree. I think my intent wasn't completely to say, hey, we don't need their director, we hire one. And maybe it's a collaborative thing that we talked about as, again, as we get down here to a new visitor center and we talk about moving people into a new visitor center, could it be the chamber, could it be Main Street, could it be VMI, and all of them under one roof, so then they can work together and collaborate more. As Trevor talked about, having that conversation in there. Again, who's gonna help drive that?
That's
But I
part
see a lot of, I'm sorry.
Which is down the road, obviously.
That's part of the reason we put 60,000 in there instead of 75, because if there was a collaboration with another entity, maybe we would only need the 40, 50, and then in the rollover for the following year, we wouldn't ask for that money because we already got it, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever that extra is. And to your point, Ron, sometimes it looks like VMI is neglecting the county, and one of the and I understand that. So it's been a real education the last year and a half or so. What happens is we clearly identify what our main draw is, and it's Madison. And the hope is, and what you always strive to do, is all the diversion businesses, all the outlying parts of Jefferson County, they benefit from that. So if we get them here, that those tax dollars, I think it's in the Rockport analysis, that $290 less in taxes per household, because this industry is so successful. So it benefits everybody. We promote everything, and that was an education. Curtis asked that, and I didn't know that. And so the staff had to tell me, Canyon Fall Festival, some of these outlying events, they do receive support. It's just not on the biggest scale, because it isn't the main draw. So the diversion events, they still get our time, just not quite as much.
Lucy, is it?
Well, the festivals are so big, they take a lot of time too, so it's a lot of...
Well, actually, we'll know exactly how much time. And some of the events
Sure.
require a lot less, some of them a lot more. The events that work the best, they're volunteer-based, and the staff at VMI work so hand in hand that it runs very, very smoothly with somebody coordinating that effort. Those seem to be the most successful events.
Yeah.
Can I just say, as far as the executive director, Lucy, wouldn't you say that we're missing out on a lot of like regional and like state opportunities?
Yeah.
We used to send, the director used to be our voice at other counties, at other organizations and things, and we haven't had that at all really since well before COVID. we're really missing out on that. And I know Sarah's trying to pull those pieces together the best she can, but she's trying to do marketing, and then she's pulled away trying to do things that normally a director would do. Not so much managing the staff, but just being that voice across.
I guess I look at it similar to what the mayor's done with economic development, of bringing it in-house to allow, I mean, the county and the city had all collaborated with whatever, Midcore Eco, whatever it was called. And again, nobody really knew what they were getting back with their investment. There was never any, hey, this is what we got. So again, just looking at it of saying, hey, we need our own person,
I think if you.
doesn't take away that they need a director.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the mayor's model, you kind of already have that, because we're here every month and I send stuff in between and say, just call me and I'll let you know.
Oh,
Giving reports on our operations and on what our marketing people are doing. So in a way, it is in-house. There is accountability, and I think that was a goal that you and I had, was to bring that accountability and oversight for both of us, both boards, to work at that.
sure.
I see your point. I mean, I've been on this board a month, and it looks like it's a monster.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
it
a lot of
really
work.
is.
If you do it right, there's a lot of work.
I mean, we could sit up here and we could approve a contract and say, we're done and see you next year, like it's been done at times in the past. And we're trying not to do that, so we can be a little more fiscally responsible, and it allows them to be, more creative and more powerful.
Ron, the difference is what Curtis is saying is spot on. And in VMI's, defense, they used to just provide information that was, for lack of better phrases, half-assed, and then the group just agreed to it. And agreed, in VMI's, defense, I would say over the last year, we've been bombarded with data and information, and they have said yes to every question that we've asked, and they've dug and dug and dug to gather that information.
Well, we've invested into tools that they didn't have that could answer the questions that we were looking for with the economic impact and the STAR reports and, those kind of things, so.
And the contract was developed by the JCBT, and it is very similar to last year, other than dates and amounts. So many of the, and meeting the obligations of that contract has increased our expenses as well. Like I said about the audit, for instance.
So if we were to table the operational side and we were to approve the marketing side.
I think it goes hand in hand, because you gotta pay the marketing people to execute the marketing plan.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. So from now until the point where we say yay or nay, or the nay has something attached to it, what does that discussion look like?
I think we probably have to have another meeting between now and then. I think we need to probably meet in a couple of weeks and really look for an approval on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Within the
I don't
next
know if
couple
you want to
weeks.
reach out, or someone to reach out to these other organizations, just not necessarily knowing that it's not going to happen, but what are they doing, what are their thoughts are on that? If they come back and say, never in a million years, then, okay, well then we may say, well, do we want to look at how?
And I think Lucy's had some of that conversation as they've looked for a director. I think she's had some conversations with with the chamber and some of those guys, some of those folks.
I follow. So we would table the operational side. So you're not saying approve or don't approve the marketing? Or I understand.
I think it's hard to approve the marketing without having the
Right,
person
without
to
the person to
perform
do
the
it,
marketing.
Okay, so you table it, and then you reach out to those organizations that are in need of an executive director that may want to partner and create a team with VMI. That's the next step before.
Well, just see if there's any interest there, and then that gives us a little more time to kind of digest things, because we're going to have to, I don't know that the numbers are going to change any.
I think what we're going to find out is probably what Lucy has found, that people are interested, but we're not going to be able to do it now. It's going to be, hey, a 2023 conversation. So what does it look like to approve them now? I mean, don't you think that that's what we're going to find, that they're open to it, but we're not?
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, we're still not, we don't have a building to house them all in. If they said yes, what would we do? So,
If you get a marketing director, what would be the term of their contract?
We have a marketing director,
I'm
executive
sorry,
director.
executive director,
What would the term of their contract?
typically be.
We have never had like,
they're at-will employees, aren't they?
yeah,
Just the,
yeah. We've never had like a termed contract, but I've spoken about introducing that to have a reevaluation every year and then really get into a good contract, a lot more long-term contract after that. We've never introduced that, but we're talking about it. Last year we operated for, I don't know how long, I'm terrible with time, Sarah's good at it, at least 6 months with no contract at all. And that's
it was
why-
about 6 months, that's about right.
That's why I wanted to start this process early. So if people have questions, like I said in my email, please reach out and I'm glad to answer them.
Well, if we table it, what are we gonna do to understand and study the problem? What's the plan of action? And what can we accomplish in 2 weeks?
The only thing we would accomplish in 2 weeks, in my opinion, is we would be able to, I mean, have you guys read through all this and you're good with everything, or?
In terms of the contract, in terms of the requirements, responsibilities of the contract, they seem right on the money.
It's the same as last year,
Yeah,
essentially.
they're right on the money. The only question is on the numbers. And in my mind, the only question on the numbers is just the similarity between their budget and our proposed inbound incoming budget, and figuring out how to deal with that. And frankly, maybe the first step to deal with that is another discussion we've got down the line a little bit further tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what, it gives us a little bit of time to talk about that. I mean, it gives us, we've set aside a certain amount of money to help others out in the community, and if we approve the contract the way it is, that's gone. So, well, I mean.
Without tapping into.
Sure, but.
The reserves that we work to build, essentially. But as Jim stated, I think some of that comes up as we get down through here.
But, how long does that take? That's
Yeah,
not
that won't happen
something.
until next year.
Right, yeah, it's not something that you say, okay, tonight we want to do it, and boom, it's coming in.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that goes with that.
Yeah.
But we're just the starting point.
Yes, so,
So there, in my mind, there's a couple of balancing factors on the dollars. The first point is, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, the biggest single change in their salary requirements is a salary for the executive director. That's a 4 to 6 month lead time before that would occur. The discussion we're getting ready to have about the change in the bed tax is a 12-month process.
Yeah.
And so they kind of balance out against each other a little bit, but it would still tap into some reserves to move forward.
I mean, it's not just the executive director, it's the marketing assistant. I mean, it's $100,000.
Well, that's true.
So,
That is true.
it's those two put together. So, that's the thing we're gonna have to wrestle with, to come up with, how we wanna do we say, the one.
What was that? So what was that total contribution from last year? Do you know off the top of your head? Was it $180,000 for salaries and $110 for marketing? $290?
For operations
Well,
or just for
total.
salaries?
So what was your operations side?
brought Tiffany.
I'm looking at this, is it 170?
So last year payroll was 230 total.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you've got contributions from,
Right, so
Others.
different things play into that, not just you guys, but, yeah.
yeah, I'm just trying to find out what our number was $170,000.
Yes. That's what for operations is.
We're looking at 293, so $120,000.
So I think we need to table it for now, meet in sometime in 2 weeks if we can figure out a date. And I know the spring break's coming, so it may be more than 2 weeks. We'll see how that works, and then,
So would that be the 14th from today?
yes. So now, if you guys could meet on the 14th, just let me know.
Then Madison's member is following. Madison's is following with Southwestern's. So great. And Shaw's following. I think that's the,
So we'll table this.
unless somebody's wanting to make a motion to throw something out there, I think that's what we're gonna have to do. So.
Good. We'll do that. And, we need a motion to table, to discuss, and make approval. We'll set up another meeting on the 14th of that week. Go from there.
Yeah.
Good.
Can we make this the only agenda item for that meeting?
Yeah.
So that we're not,
Correct.
How can people like myself prepare for this meeting? How can we better understand the issue? I think that's, maybe.
Again, I mean, I'm just gonna give you, my opinion is that the issue isn't necessarily allocating the funds. It's, okay, if we're gonna approve $400,000 and we have a $420,000 budget, where are we gonna make changes within our budget to accommodate that request? Which is gonna be difficult when we have two groups here tonight ready to request funds that, that we had advertised we may have, and now we may have to make a change to that. Or, again, are we wanting to look at some of our cash resources that we have available? And for me, I'd like to have a little bit of time to figure out what that looks like.
Can we give you some historical information from a couple years? And just so you can look at what.
And
I think I get the picture.
did you get, Lucy, did you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So that's just got the 19, 20, 21s, and 22 numbers on it that kind of show you what we were doing.
So do we need a motion?
Not to table it.
Yeah, since we just said we were going to discuss it, if we had approval of it and then we wanted to table the approval, then we probably need a motion. I think. But we do have enough discussion, enough digging around to figure out how to need another meeting to make sure we get that resolved on the 14th and then meet again on the 28th for then we can.
Yep.
Go from there. Anyone go to the Tourism Alliance? Did you go to the Tourism Alliance meeting?
I wasn't available. I can't say the sports council is moving. They're working on pictures of facilities and maps and attendance numbers and those kind of things. They're still getting organized within the stakeholders there, so still have an intern working.
So do you, I mean, like, contact with those guys to kind of give us an update on what's, I know they're doing a plan?
Absolutely.
I think Michael will be here in March to present, and Dan to present their findings.
Oh, so
Is
they're
my
gonna be at the-
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should be because our contract would
I
be
attended,
up at that point.
I attended the meeting, they said that they were going to have a written report as well as a verbal report in March with their final findings and recommendations.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
All right, next we have some partnership proposals. We looked at one from the town of Hanover. They've gone out and gotten a proposal from Civic Plus. I think the thing that's most important is looking at some of those benefits, and I think a lot of us didn't get past the first page last time, so to go to the second page and talk about how the kind of their vision on what they're going to do. So that first one is to take increase the visibility, and they're proposing to do it for the county. So we need to, how do we work through that? But that was why it is the way it is their view that, and it's rightly so, we need some place where people can go and get information about what's going on countywide, and kind of give them access to those events, if it's events or places to stay or activities, or kind of tying it all together. So that's number one. Number two is kind of working on this collaboration. So we need to truly think. So that's part of their proposal, is to tie everyone else in and gathering information and things for helpful. And they want to make sure they include Hanover College, the town of Hanover, the places that are outside the city, which is something that I think we've talked about, but so that was number three. Part of it is to have someone to carry on that website, the interaction between the public and whatever groups it is, but someone's got to be there to keep things up to date, get that information from folks and get it posted, get it into a place where people can see it. Because while it's out there, it's difficult to do that. So, and then the last one is again looking at that collaboration, but working with, making sure we get all the different groups in the county involved. So they've got several that are the funds there. Back to the front page, all those are matching dollars, so that's going into it to get things set up and running. And, so we got half of it funded already. Any questions?
And Debbie, this is one time.
So it's like a 3-year contract. So one of the things that they did tell us that they're giving us a $4,500 discount if we sign by March the 31st. So the sports part of the contract, I mean, that's what's the sport and rec, that's always the most expensive when you do a web page.
What are you guys using for it?
So what it would be is, it's going to be one site, but the sports and rec will have a link there. And then that sports and rec, one of the things that we talked about was your sports council.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a place there, like a drop down, where we would like for the county to be able to access, I mean, people from the sports council, that there will be a calendar there and like a place that shows where all the fields are, what's used, what's not used. I mean, we want this website to be able to help, like, you guys have Civic Plus, the county does, where we would have a county, link there. We would have a Hanover link. We would have a VMI. One of the things that we talked about is having a board, and we would like a member of the VMI on it, a member of the chamber to help with this website. Because, I mean, we want it to be a really good website, and we want it to be able to just encompass the whole Jefferson County. And one of the things that, and I apologize, Kenny's not here, because Kenny has sat in on so many of these, but he had another engagement.
Sure.
So I do apologize for that, because he knows more about it than I do. But it's mobile friendly. There was just so much positive to it. And I'm looking at the goals here that we had. We're getting a lot of bed and breakfasts out there people are wanting to do. We've got one in Logan's Point. We've got one right there on File Street. So that's one of the things that people have been talking about. We have 2 hotels at the college, 2 rooms at the college that people don't know about. So it would just be nice to have all these links,
So the request is for $41,699,
Yes,
and that was total for all 3 years, or?
yes.
That's total for all 3 years.
All 3
Okay.
years, yes. And the sports and rec was $19,135, or $19,135. And with a $4,500 discount, it brought it down to $14,635.
And that's included in that
That's included in the 41,
$41,000?
yes, 690. It would actually have been more than that.
Debbie, is the 41,000 all upfront cost, or is that
We
expended
could
over
probably-
the course of through 3 years?
Yes, we could probably do it over 3 years, yes.
And I'm asking that
Yes,
as part of our discussion on budgets.
yes.
Or does it all need to go in 1 year's budget, or?
Yeah, if we could do, I think it's like 2 years. But yeah, we could do some now, some later. Yeah, we would definitely.
I'm just gonna ask the obvious, I think. How much of this is gonna impact tourism, do you think?
They told us the sports and rec is going to be the big tourism draw. They said after 3 years, they've got 7,500 municipalities, because that's all they do is government websites. They said that the towns bring in over $100,000 from their websites, because it really brings in the tourism, it brings in the draw. We've got a link to where you can do like the sports, like double eliminations and stuff, where you can have all that. People can get on there and look and see where their teams are at. But that's what they told us, that they've not had any government agency that did not bring in a large amount of money.
So where it says to expand by 20%, what's your current number? Do you have any data on that?
Which one are you on?
Number 3, where it says it's to expand sports-related tourism by 20%.
So we just started our park last year. It had been non-existent, and we had over 500 kids the first year.
For
For,
rec leagues?
Uh-huh.
And how much so that's people who live in town, or were coming
they were coming from all over the county.
for like overnight stays and tourism? Or
We had some come, because we had some softball tournaments and stuff that came in, and they were all the different counties, so we did bring. And then we've been doing music festivals. We built a thing out at the park, and we've had 3, I think, last year. So, and we're looking at least that many, if not more, this year.
Do you know what your attendance was at those?
Right around, the first one was like 200 and some, the other ones were 150, 200. For our first year, I thought we was doing okay. We really want to expand.
And get the word out as much.
Yeah, that's what it is, it's just getting the word out, We're trying to make sure that our festivals, our music things, it seems like they happened when the college was not there, and then with the COVID thing, one of the things that Blake said that, you know, he wished that the COVID was not here because then more of his, because he tried to discourage the students from getting out very much at the time because they was trying to keep the COVID and, you know, down at the college, so.
When I was helping Deb and Kenny in the town look at their options, I'd done the same thing for the county when the due diligence when Norbert was the commissioner. A couple of things that were new to Civic Plus and Civic Rec, which is different than what the town is using currently. They use Rec Deck and they use Aspira, I think, for their camping. A couple of things that are new that no one has, but Hanover would be able to introduce on a countywide level, if that's what you guys wanted, would be the zip code collection, the automatic zip code collection, and the automatic email system out to some of the things that your Sports and Rec Council was talking about. They negotiated for an email system, collecting of all emails for coaches in regional areas, that ability to market through the website directly to try and get more out of community tourneys and bring people from out of town. The town board asked that there be direct links to lodging. So the technical aspect of it, I think, can be a little bit confusing, but basically you have a website and your landing page. But the portal that Deb is talking about is that Sports and Rec portal that supports or even engages directly with the Sports Council to get all those things that the goals were there, because Hanover found that they needed to do something similar anyway. They already had Southwestern, they had the college, and they have the fastest growing rec league in the county. So they have to do something. But since they're going to do something, should they not look at this other collaborative point? And that would be your Sports and Rec Council. And so that's why she said for the team that's going to be working on this, it would require that you have someone from this board, someone from Sports and Rec, someone from lodging. You need to have definitely someone from VMI, because it's designed, at least the proposal is, to include festivals, music events, countywide, including the city of Madison, but countywide, as well as all your Sports and Rec. So there's a lot of growth out there, and that's where the largest growth in the county is occurring at this time. But I know that Deb can't get into it, but there's some developments that are occurring in their Parks and Rec system that are fairly substantial.
One of the things that we did find out was that in the last year, we've had more building permits than we have in the last 20 years. Combined, yeah.
The two possible developments.
I think it's a great project. I'm just speaking for myself. I think it's a great project. I'm just trying to figure out the part of that touches tourism and how much of that we should contribute to is where I'm. I don't know that it's $40,000, but I think it has something to it that I'm trying to put a number to that.
This was originally a proposal that you supported.
I'm not saying I'm not supporting it.
Right,
No,
you just,
I'm trying to understand how much of that we should touch as tourism. Because I think it's definitely needed, but I don't think that every single aspect of that is tourism.
No,
Right.
it isn't. Part of it is in order to save costs, there were three other proposals, and one was for 54063, which broke out the tourism aspect, Parks and Rec Festival aspect, and it only increased the cost. So what the other idea was that you improve the town website so that it was a strong enough foundation to hold this complex management system for the Parks and Rec and the Sports and Rec portal that would be collaborative with especially Hanover College and the school systems and what other resources were there. Originally it was sort of focused on the Hanover area, but then it became a much broader concept after this board, and you guys were talking about Sports and Rec. I thought it was one of the things that you guys were talking about was that collaborative, bringing everybody in together.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've been speaking about you know, I thought your comments about do we need to do a director were very interesting and pretty powerful, because you said everybody's kind of going on their own path. Well, this is the first time not everybody's going on their own path, and there's somebody trying to lay a foundation to open doors for everybody to come together. So if all the dollars go on one path, all the dollars go on one path. And this is not, I mean, relative to a $400,000 investment, you're looking right around 40. But I think what's nice about this, because I had really deep concerns when they asked me about it, was my first thing was you can't have just anybody manage a sports and rec portal. It just can't be just anybody. You've got to have your manager for your regular website, and they do have that. But you have to have somebody that's qualified in sports and rec, media, has good communication and connections within the community. And I think that Hanover is in a strong position with that, with who their Parks and Rec director is, who used to be Parks and Rec for, the city, and who used to be connected with local media. So I don't know how you get to where you want to go as a board with broader collaboration without considering these types of projects, but they're not inexpensive. And so you may have to spread it over 2 years, especially with what you're facing with other requests. I mean, I don't know.
And I think part of the question is finding the distinction between what is purely Parks Department, which is a community expense, and what is tourism draw explicit from Parks Department. And certainly that's there, but it's a percentage, not the whole.
The portal is the largest impact for tourism, there is no doubt on that. With the ability to purchase tickets online for not just Hanover, add QR codes that connect to anywhere or anything in the county. It is an opportunity. It's not one that necessarily the board needs or wants to take, if that's how you want to go. But it's sort of one of those things. It's now or never. If you want to try a collaborative project, this is your collaborative project. Hanover is going to lay out quite a bit of money to manage their town website, to populate the website, to take care of all the content, branding, graphics, and photography. And that's not just in Hanover. That's the knowing that they're going to have to do some county-wide work to get the site to where they want it to be. But,
And I'm sure you said it, and I didn't catch it. Who will be producing the website?
Civic Plus is the partner to it's the same one that the county uses. The city used to use it. Civic Rec is their park and rec event, festival, ticketing kind of partner to that.
I just want to thank you for any consideration.
So it's roughly $13,890 for 2022, 2023, and 2024, right?
It's
And you guys are doing, like concerts this year in 2022? Bringing in some good talent and,
Keith's working on it.
yeah, that's what Keith
REO
was saying.
Speedwagon was who he's trying to get. So I don't forget him or not.
They'll try.
Yeah, we will.
Do you have a list of the things that you're planning to promote on this website for the coming year?
That's gonna have to be, that's what we're looking for, getting a marketing team. That's what I wanted to get, somebody from BMI, somebody from the, chamber and stuff, because this is all, our website now, if you got on our website, you can pay your bill. That's pretty much it. And if you look at it, you would think it's something to do with Hanover College, because it has like Hanover College sign and it's got announcements there. So you would think, well, Hanover College, I wonder what their announcements are, and it's got the picture of the river and stuff. Because when we did it, we didn't have a website this last 2 years ago, and we just got paying bills online, and so we had to have one really quick. So we paid to have one done. I mean, that's all we could afford at the time, and that's about all you can do. And look at the minutes. Our minutes are on there.
I personally want, you come here twice, you and I have had dialogue. I love the idea, I see the promise that it carries. Not the board right now, they're not jumping up and down, so I'm trying to kind of read both. So I'm just throwing stuff out just to churn more of a conversation. If you were to connect with VMI, because that's the marketing hub, communicate with them and Scott Davidson, Kenny Garrett, there was someone else.
The chamber, we wanted somebody from the chamber on it. I have a.
No, I understand that, but I'm throwing out like prerequisites.
Right.
If we committed to 1 year of 13,890, based off of these contingencies that you will, and I know you will follow through and will communicate and will connect and will have a concert and will show data in 11 months or 12 months that yes, we brought in, like Tammy was saying, we brought in something, and with that data, we would be able to say, yeah, let's fund the second year. That's a gamble from your all standpoint, but again, I'm just trying to create dialogue in this board.
One of the things you already paid for was an upgrade for VMI's all-comprehensive countywide tourism marketing website, and it costs $10,000 and $140 maintained per month. So that expense, this board's already paid. So just to put that in perspective, Hannah Fagan upgraded the website for the city of Madison for a cost of $10,000. So 40 is a lot.
None of those sites allow you the portal access that the Sports and Rec for the countywide program.
We can't build on the website we have to start.
But
anew.
even, neither Visit
Yeah.
Madison nor the city, nor the county have a comprehensive, let me just rephrase it, where I come from in Bartholomew County, Sports and Rec tourism. So there is no Sports and Rec tourism comprehensive website for this county. And the city just redid their website, VMI just redid their website, and no opportunity was taken at that point to integrate your Sports and Rec tourism onto the internet. So this was the only opportunity at this point that's fresh and new, that you don't have to go back and redo city, or you don't have to go back and redo VMI. But it would, one of the things they wanted very much so was to take advantage of Scott Davidson's position, the growing Sports and Rec momentum that was initially, I think, started through this board, and at least 2 members of this board, and try to develop that portal that you wanted, that would not only allow those in Hanover to use that portal, but open it up countywide. And certainly they can move forward in another silo, single lane, with just Hanover doing their thing, or they can open it up to everyone and work collaboratively.
We collaborate with Hanover College and with the town of Hanover. We've included the events that do happen in Hanover, so we aren't really in a silo. We do try to involve everybody in our website. Of course, the city of Madison is going to do the city of Madison, but I'm sure linking to things would be beneficial. But we pay 10.
I think that this sounds great. I mean, and I am a resident of Hanover, I personally would benefit from this. So I have nothing against what you're trying to do.
Right.
I think though, our issue is we have to do our due diligence and make sure that what we are funding specifically has to be tourism efforts.
Yeah.
So I think for me personally, I would just like to see a little bit more data on, what are you going to do?
It's hard for us to have the data because we've just started with everything. That's our problem. We just don't have the data. Kenny and I came because Wendy Lawson reached out to us and said, hey, what can we do for you guys? And that's why, we came, we presented, we didn't have enough of the information. So I'm bringing it back, and if it's not, I mean, it's not what you guys want to do, it's not what you guys want to do. I mean, just tell me. I mean,
Is the college supporting it anyway?
we
they
haven't
contributing
reached
anything?
out, we haven't reached out to the college.
Because it seems like there's going to be quite a bit of information that's going to be useful for them as well, so
Right.
that's why I just was
Yeah.
curious what that.
If they, if we followed the idea that we fund it for a year, with that, what could you do with that?
Well, I mean, we hopefully could get it started. I mean, I had to take it back to the council. We'd have to look and see, you know, if you guys did not, I mean, it's gonna cost us, after the 3 years, it's gonna cost us over $11,000 to keep this site up and running. So, I mean, we're taking Civic Plus by their word that, you know, we're going to get money, you know, from this website, especially from the Sports and Rec side. That's what they're telling us. And so we will be able to fund it. So, I mean, that's why, you know, we would have to go back and look at our budget.
Their number was
Yeah.
between 100 and 250,000 generated in revenue,
Yeah.
which would be kicking up their sports and rec program, as well as funding the Hanover aspect of marketing, which somebody reached out to Hanover for some kind of interlocal agreement on tourism funding. That's where those dollars would be coming from.
And Kenny made sure to say, no, we're a really small town, when they threw those numbers out to him, and they said, no, everybody that we've had has brought in, you know, quite a bit of money, so we were hoping.
And you say the maintenance, I'm gonna call it maintenance, the maintenance expense after it's up and running
Is 11,000.
is 11,000 a year, about $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's for
Yeah.
hosting, not for operating
Yeah.
or maintaining the
Yeah.
site. They still have the cost
Yeah, they
of the
have,
salary to have someone work the site,
yeah, this is
similar to what the
just
city or the county
Civic
has.
Plus letting us keep it up and running.
But the hosting's gonna be $1,000 a month.
Mhm. I mean, I wish I had more data for you guys, I really do, you know, I mean, but the town is just really, I mean, it's really starting to take off, and we're super excited about it. I mean,
Well, they've certainly funded projects without data.
yeah, but I mean, you know, I understand where you guys are coming from.
And in fairness, the entire sports tourism impetus in Madison and Jefferson County is a new impetus.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it really is starting from the ground level.
Correct.
Which,
You gave 25,000 to a rodeo on the hope that you could see some data come in and some overnight stays. So that would fall under, similar to your sports and rec.
And part of the sports and rec is going to be to develop a website, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if there's one already
we've
there
seen
that
the
we
initial, the layout of that.
can work into those. There'll be a portal.
What's really going to happen with the sports and rec is at some point it's going to turn into either a business or another service that somebody's going to have to provide.
Correct.
I don't know if that's going to be Hanover, if it's going to be the city, if it's going to be the county, or if it's going to be, again, an economic driver that somebody can create a business. We've got the legwork done and the contacts in place that somebody can start that, but there's definitely a missing link of, after we get organized, where do we go?
Does this give us a way to go?
It sounds like there's an opportunity for it to be there, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's not the end point. You would expect that you would use this as a leap pad.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you did get to your point, I mean, you know, but this certainly gives you something in the next year, with the next 10 to 12 months, to actually develop it. I mean, you would be developing it, once they sign the contract in March, if they can do that to get the 4,500 discount, then you're ready to go in part of that development. Hanover's willing to get the team together and work collaboratively with everyone,
They told us 15 weeks.
just to start.
So if Debbie were to come back, what, I guess, board, what other information do we need? Or do we just say no, or do we commit to 1 year? Do we, because I hear Lucy saying it's 10 grand to do one, and then it's 40.
But they've already had a website. We didn't have a website.
And theirs is not a complex management system for sports and rec.
Yeah.
And that is the portal?
That's the portal, as well as the QR codes, as well as the zip coding.
And this
the
is
emailing.
ADA also.
Yeah, it's,
What's the zip coding do?
you're collecting your data from every single, as a player is registered for a team, you have the zip code where those players come from. And you also have where your coaches are and their emails. You have any inquiry that's coming from.
But it's not point of sale tracking or anything like that, right?
There is a point of sale system that's engaged in that, and that's how you monetize that. And that's how the funds then go back into that development of that sports and rec
We can
tourism.
text with this website. We can send out newsletters. As long as we have the emails and everything, we can send out newsletters and alerts.
It's the infrastructure to your program.
Burning daylight. I'll tell you what my opinion is as a newcomer. I think we have a responsibility to the county as well as the city. And sometimes you roll the dice and it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Seems like a reasonable idea to me. So if anybody wants to know what I think I support it.
So is that a motion?
Well, I can make it a motion if you want me to. I move that we, let's talk about this Trevor thing a little bit more. Talk to me about your idea
The 3 years, dividing it by
there. Yeah,
3.
does it work for them, or is it just a way to soften the blow?
I don't know, if I'm sitting over there and someone's sitting here, I'm competitive, and I know Debbie, and she's competitive, and if you say, I'll do this for you, but here are 5 things you gotta do for me, then Debbie's gonna bring those 5 things this time next year, because there's the possibility that I'm not here, he's not here, you're not there, she's not here, and like, well, did you follow through with what you agreed on? And they say, no, we didn't. Then your 13,890 is not going to be given for the second year.
Well, just from the last time I came to you guys, you already have 3 new members, and congratulations. I think.
Still be determined,
I
right?
mean, I
Let's
sit
have it for 2
on the
meetings.
Hanover
Next
Town
meeting,
Council
we'll
Board,
be
so I know how you
come
guys
back.
feel.
What strings are being attached to other proposals? The rodeo, for instance, what do they need to bring back after a $25,000?
No, that's a great question. I'm not interested in that, because I'm looking at this right here. I'm not
Okay.
going to compare all those. We haven't established that standard, and that's a different meeting, and that's a different discussion.
I think
Good
it's a-
question.
yeah, it is a good
However,
question.
on this one pertaining to this, that's all I'm really focused on.
Right.
What we did and what we will do is what we did and what we will do. I'm really focused on this because this is something new that's brought to us that I genuinely care about, because I've seen firsthand the progress that they've made. Other deals that we've made are on the come. It's what we think's going to happen, and we put ourselves in a position to be successful. This one also has that as well.
What if we ask for half now? What if we say, what about half now? And then next year we'll come and meet what you say, and hopefully this will
Yeah,
work.
but anytime you can extend money out, you want to extend the money out.
I think half's more manageable than the thirds.
I think that what shows on the proposals, because Mr. Garrett asked for a 3-year quote, Civic Plus and Civic Rec only
Only
allow
do
a 2-year
2-year.
contract.
He tried to spread it out.
Yeah, he was trying to spread that out and asked for that, and so it's a 2-year divide.
I think half's easy enough, because I think you guys can generate some revenue off of advertisements and different things on there too. So, I mean, where I stand, I'm okay with supporting part of it. I just don't know that it's all of it at this point where we're at. Because I still think there's some time for you guys to find some other opportunities to get some sponsors and things. But there's definitely, I think there's a tourism part to it.
But I have to write down, you asked a good question, and I got it in my head, I have to write them down, but, you know, the caveats or the contingencies of what I would like to see are some of those points that you all made and just seeing that data. So it comes back and says, like you're asking for, yeah, there was 800 people that had different zip codes and they were here and they stayed and they shopped and they, you know, and they came back. I mean, that's the tourism component. And yes, what you guys are doing with the food and drink and tournaments and live music and having Keith recruit, that is tourism. I mean,
Well, and we're looking at expanding and hopefully putting some soccer fields in,
you are.
so.
You guys are doing some stuff out there. And I guess that's a part of it as well, as I'd like to be on the front end of that, knowing that we help push that a little bit. And you're right, you guys are, and I say you guys, I live in Hanover, you know, the website's archaic and the connectivity's archaic and you gotta get there.
And I think statistics are going to be extremely important.
Yeah.
Having said that, if my math is right, though, this won't go online till July. So
will
you're
probably-
really only going to have a half a year of statistics.
Right.
Right. It'll
We've got some
most
other
likely be
things in place that
academic.
can get statistics, because we've got the economic impact calculator and some of that STAR data that we can.
But
It's
in
available
terms
to-
of the effect of the web page,
Right.
Sure.
we're only going to be dealing with half a year. So, you know, we've got to mute the requirement for statistics.
Well,
With that
you got half a year to
understanding.
figure out what's not happening, and then a half a year to see the impact. So,
Right.
I mean, this
So-
is better than saying, you know, we had
Yeah.
last week and we got 2 weeks ahead of us, so. we
I
got a
do
little
think
bit of time.
Scott has done a good job collecting data that he can. He has not been able to collect the zip codes, but he does get numbers of participants, adults and children. And he gave that report to the council, town board, I saw it once. That data, Mr. Bartlett, can be collected for you, it just won't be as complete as what
Well,
you or I would want.
and again, what I'm looking at is, yes, data for the project as a whole is very important, but when we're talking about this project, the effect of this project will only encompass half a year.
Yeah.
Based on 15 weeks of development.
Right.
Yes, it'll be at least that.
Ron, I'm gonna make a motion. Make a motion to give half, $20,849.50 to the partnership proposal for the town of Hanover Parks and Rec, contingent on them bringing data to us as they get it and communicating with VMI on a consistent basis.
Second.
We had plenty of discussion. Do we have any more?
Well, we do have a list of what data you want, right?
I think we can,
Oh, yeah, I think between, once they get it up
Yeah.
and going and
Yeah.
get some
we can work on that.
output, we should be able to develop that, yes.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by aye.
I want to thank you guys.
Thank you for.
Thank you so much. If you don't mind, the meeting's been great.
Yeah, you're gonna leave.
I've
We have
got-
a dinner meeting.
Yeah, Hanover's got their meeting Wednesday night, so hopefully I'll see you at the next CAB meeting.
Is that
Thanks,
Thursday?
guys.
That's a week from now,
A week from now.
Thursday.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Another week.
All right, Jim.
So, we have,
Let's do it.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Never mind.
so, as was mentioned earlier, this is the 20th anniversary of Riverfest. And to that end, of course, Riverfest has been a very successful tourism event in Madison over these 20 years. But because it's the 20th year, frankly, the festival is looking to make a big deal out of it. And Erin Kendall is here with us tonight. She can speak more in detail of the plans coming up.
We should have probably passed this out earlier, but I want you guys to have some numbers to look at. Here's the budget for this year. And then there's just some more information in the reference. So, first off, I'm Erin Kendall, just to kind of give you guys a quick introduction of who I am. I'm the event coordinator for Riverfest. I actually volunteered with Riverfest for over 10 years in different capacities. I started off ticket counting and working in the banking area at the very beginning, and then I became the chairperson for one of the committees. So I'm very involved with it, and then I had the great opportunity last year in July, I believe it was, to step up as the coordinator. So it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy this job much more than that. It's a great thing of being able to do something you love and do it for a living. So that being said, the capacity that I work with Riverfest now is very different from what I'm used to working with, so some of it's still very new to me. I want to go over a little bit of background on Riverfest and then why I'm here and why I'm requesting funds and what this investment would mean to Riverfest and our community. So a little background on Riverfest, which I'm sure you guys know, but just to kind of get it fresh for you guys. This event's been going on for 21 years. It's 21 years old, but this is actually going to be our 20th event because of COVID. So this is the year we're doing our big celebration. We host a sanctioned KCBS contest, which is the big barbecue contest that's sanctioned. There's a lot of rules that go along with it. But that houses the west side of Vaughn and Broadway. We do a backyard barbecue competition with amateurs on the other side. During the event, it's also great. We do kids' queue, so we keep them involved as well. These are people from outside of the community and inside of the community that participate in all of these events. And then obviously the big Blues Bash, which is always a hit. This is a 2-day concert series. We do pre-sale tickets that offer $10 food tickets along with them with the pre-sales only. We have vending options, we have beer options, we have hospitality, we have a lot of fun things that bring in not only our community, but outsiders. One of the big things that's affecting us right now is the cost of everything. Cost is going up across the board. I'm struggling looking at budget numbers from previous years and then trying to contract for this year already, and it's blowing my mind. So that's kind of an issue that we're running into. But kind of going back, our community presence here in Madison, we fill the hotels, a lot of restaurants. We have people that come in for the weekend and stay. We bring just kind of an ambiance to Madison during that time. We fill the air with barbecue. We have blues music going. We have our giant cement pigs everywhere that kind of is a specialty house to feature inside of our budget that funds a scholarship. So that's another feature that we add as well. We are primarily volunteer based. So we have 1,010,000 volunteers. I don't really know what our exact number is, but we have a ton of volunteers that make this event happen, including a fantastic committee that there's no way I would do this job without them. They take it on like it's their job, and they take it very, very seriously from the beginning to end to make sure that our river looks great when we're done, and they don't even know that we were there. So that being said, the whole reason I'm here is that we are requesting $80,000 this year for our 20th anniversary bash. This is 16% of our overall budget. We have been a self-sustaining event since the beginning, so this is the first time from my knowledge and from anything that I can pull that we've ever asked for funding. Again, COVID was a hard hit for us. We were ready to come back and make it big last year, and the county was red, I think, like right up to the week before the event. So it was on again, off again. Do you want to come? Do you not want to come? Our pre-sales were down. Usually people would get their tickets, and if anybody in an event, if they get pre-sale tickets and they're like, oh, well, I definitely got to go now because I have the ticket, but if they wait until the end, they may or may not. With us being in red, that was kind of a hard hit, so we didn't do as great as we thought we would. Our sponsorships usually encompass about 12.5% of our budget, and this year we're trying to double that. Again, this isn't just a normal year, this is our 20th anniversary. This is something that's been established in Madison, and we want to show people that we're back and that this is something to be excited about because we don't plan on going anywhere.
One of the comments that Aaron didn't mention is, of course, the hallmark of the event is the blues concert, the blues music festival. And the bands that you're communicating with if they're at the level that you want in a festival of that nature, you're typically dealing with high 5 digits, if not 6 digits, in expense of bringing the bands in. And all of those numbers have gone up this year. So that's part of, as she mentioned earlier, the increased expense of putting on the event.
Those blues bands that we want to bring in, I mean, the bigger the name, the more people that you're going to bring in because they want to see them. Obviously, that's something that we want to keep secret. We've tried to hit some really, really big ones this year, and our lineup is not complete yet or ready to be released, but it's going to be pretty awesome if we can get everything funded and ready to go. Of that 80,000 that we're requesting, 62% of that would actually go to the blues, the back line, the hospitality, and the support for that, because there's a lot that goes along with that. That stage takes a lot of money to get here. The hospitality, the bigger the name for those bands, the bigger the rider is. They want certain space, they want certain towels, they want certain everything. So that's a big portion of what we're asking for, just to get a bigger band in here, bigger bands I should say, to bring in more people, bring them to Madison, get the heads in beds, the whole thing. 5% of that I'd like to allocate to marketing. It's again our 20th anniversary, so we want some new signage, different things that we want to outreach to make sure people know that this is our 20th big year event. A lot of people in the Blues committee or community know what Madison Riverfest is. So we want to make sure that they understand that this is our 20th and it's going to be big. So we think that that alone is going to bring in a ton of people. And then 33% of that I would like to use towards specialty 20th anniversary additions and operational costs. We have lots of ideas swirling around that we want to use those funds to bring people in earlier, not just the weekend of the event, because obviously, you know, we've got a lot of people that are here, so we want to work on doing things that are happening a couple weeks before the event. That's going to be bring people in, get them staying here, and get them staying longer and wanting to come back.
Did we use the calculator, the economic impact calculator to?
I'm working with Sarah on that right now to try to get that more tied in, just because some of the way that it questions things, there's a lot of ways to look at that. So, but we're working on that.
Okay. Just curious,
We've only had it since December, so there's a few things that we have to educate ourselves on to be able to get good numbers on.
But we're definitely trying to get those numbers tied into that. But like I said, our idea here to use those additional funds is to kind of have some very specialty items just for our 20th anniversary, to get more folks here, get them here earlier, longer and later. I mean, get them to see Madison and think this is a really cool place and come back, which a lot of our artists do, I think. So.
This is the first time you've asked. This is your first ask.
Yeah.
Is this, most of this because this is the 20th anniversary, or will it be back next year for another 80,000?
I don't anticipate coming back. This is more so, we've had, and I'm trying to remember historically from being on the committee as well, we had some bad weather years kind of hit right before COVID. Just kind of a little dip there, and then COVID hit, so we've just been hit hard. I think if we wouldn't have had that bad weather, I think if we didn't have COVID, I think that we would have had enough to be able to pull off this larger event without needing help.
I feel like you're going to make money on this one coming up.
From my numbers that I'm anticipating, yes. I hope so.
Are you looking for a commitment tonight?
I mean, that would be great, but I know that this is a lot of information to dig through, so
Yeah, it's a
I'm
lot
fine
of money.
coming back. It is a lot of money. I'm very passionate about Riverfest, and I'm more than happy to dig and get more information for you guys as well.
So there was discussion about possibly trying to do some camping. Are you guys going to do any camping this year? Or?
That's actually one of the things that we're having further discussion on.
To generate some more revenue?
So the budget, I mean, there's a lot of budget information, any revenue information, I mean, what
The documents that I gave you guys, the first page is the income, and then the second page is the expense. I will kind of run through that because it's a little bit, please just kind of bear with me. I'm using kind of the formats that they had previously and just trying to keep it the same for this first year until I want to change that. But on the one that's this way, if you look on the second page, that bottom amount, it shows a surplus of $23,000. Everything else I kind of have worked into the expense, but that's approximately how much we would be using for the specialty projects for the 20th anniversary. I just didn't include those in there, so we're not.
I know, I mean, just at the top, it says budget, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That was budgeted, that's what you spent, those were the expenses. That's what I was looking for. So
Yes.
these are expenses, I know it says it off here to the left, but over the top of each one, it says budget still. I'm thinking, well, is that what you budgeted, is that what you?
So you're expecting $502,000 in revenue, $479 in cost, right?
Well, without the $23,000 that's down there, that would be the 20th anniversary specialty items that's worked into the $80,000 that we're requesting. I just didn't put them into the expense, they're just down there at the bottom. So it's not really,
Have you included the potential $80,000 in your income too?
yes.
Okay, so that is in there. What's your sponsorship feedback been so far? With it being the 20th anniversary, what's that? What kind of feedback are you getting?
I have a couple of them that I actually have on hook, but I'm trying to get some increased sponsorship, but that's something else that volunteers and sponsorship seem to be the tag items that are really difficult anymore. I'm trying to get volunteers that actually want to take it serious, show up when they're supposed to, and take it like it's a job. But then sponsorships as well. We have more and more events that are going after the same money. So I understand that difficulty with any other event that's going on as well. Like I said, with Riverfest, we have never asked before. We're just trying to make this as big as we can for the 20th anniversary and get as many people here to see what we are. Another primary piece that we do have, our primary income pieces are our wristband sales, and then sponsorships as well, and then our different fees for different things. Wristband sales, there's always a constant battle there because we are a small community that we want to keep it affordable so locals can also attend these events. So that's something that, you know, the more we can keep that at a reasonable rate, the better off that we think it can be, because we don't just want to have an event just for outsiders, but we want our community to be here to be able to enjoy it and be a part of it as well. Which is our ploy for our volunteers, because they get a free wristband, so.
Questions or comments? So what's your schedule for, you'd like it tonight, but you just got it today.
You're
I think we need some time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still very new at this and trying to muddle through all the different spots, so.
In our next, since I told Jim we're not gonna talk about anything but the contract on the 14th, our next meeting's the 28th of March.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I
We
just-
could get that economic impact
Yeah, for
calculated for you as
information.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
That should be
That would
finished by then.
cool.
Yeah.
Be a great way for us to look at it.
Sure.
Is there any other information you'd like me to gather for them, or prior to them?
It's a great question. I think the economic impact.
I think that's gonna be
stars
the
on that.
tell-all.
Yeah, that kind of tells us.
I mean, that's what we want to use to
Yeah.
make those decisions.
I can make that happen. How soon do I need to get that to you prior to the meeting, I guess, or do you want me just to bring it?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
I think whenever you guys get it put together, the sooner you can send it out, so then that gives us time to digest it and ask any questions or
Okay.
whatever.
I believe it. I appreciate your consideration.
You did a good job.
Thank you. You're welcome to leave too if you want to.
I mean,
I know it's a lot of fun.
it is very interesting. I wasn't really sure if you guys would be able to get to me tonight, so I appreciate you squeezing me in. But thank you again.
This is short compared to what it used to be.
It ain't over yet.
I know it's not over yet. All right, next is election of officers. We decided to table it last month since a number of people were here, so. I move that we make Wendy Lawson the secretary. She's agreed to do it, so I'm not.
I second it.
Any other nominations for secretary?
Curtis, you and I have discussed you continuing as treasurer, so I would nominate Curtis to continue as treasurer.
Okay, so we were gonna do all these at once.
Well,
So we probably need to pull that first motion off so we can amend it, or,
Yeah, okay, so I will
okay.
pull that motion, I will rescind that motion for Wendy as secretary. We'll get to you, Wendy, we promise, but just give us, I'm taking it for Wendy, so. Why is it over the phone?
And I think you were fine with staying as president, yourself as the vice president, right?
Yeah.
And I would second both of those.
I bet you would, Jim.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Where's the door?
I think you guys got it.
Wow.
I think that's why I made the motion to table the discussions of
Yeah, I
the
see
elections
that.
last meeting.
See that?
He was like,
Well, then I'm, you gonna, okay, go ahead.
So we have a slate of officers, Wendy for secretary, Curtis for treasurer, Trevor for vice president, me for president. If someone wants to make a motion.
I'll move
It's gotta
that.
be one of you three, because
It would be nice if it was one of you three.
over here.
You kind of selfish of us.
Well, I believe that all four nominations have had a motion and a second behind them, so I think we're just down to voting.
Well, just to be sure.
But to be sure,
Just be
I would-
sure.
I'll move
let's
that
do it
we accept that slate as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Last chance. All right, all those in favor signify by aye. So do we vote?
Yes.
You have to have four to move that approval, so.
Okay. All right, new business, that's quick. New visitor center and innkeeper's tax rate discussion.
Okay, new visitor center. Myself and Lucy and Sarah met with Scott Lynch and toured a property on Main Street, 215 East Main Street. That is the old Madison Bacon Trust building. It sits there on the alley between Jefferson and Mulberry. Very large space. That would give us an opportunity, as we were talking about earlier, to possibly bring VMI to Main Street, collaborate with maybe the Chamber as an office, Main Street, Madison Area Arts Alliance, all the different tourism groups, an opportunity to maybe live under one roof. Scott had given me a rate of $2,500 a month for that space. That's approximately 8,000 square feet. He did ask that the first year he would include the utilities in that rate. That we would need to, after that first year, we need to take a look at what that looks like. So it's all metered together. It's not split separately. So the initial lease would probably be 1 year for us to make that transition, and then revisit it at the end of that lease to see what he has came up with on utilities and those types of things. There is one small issue he's going to have to address with a ADA compliant bathroom, but he said that he would be able to work with us to get that taken care of. So
Sewer work?
yeah, he has done some.
I mean, downstairs there was.
Yeah, they fixed the drain, there was a drainage issue with water coming in from the alley and where it came down, that's all been addressed. He showed us where they
This was
fixed it.
actual sewer line issues.
Oh.
Well, you would have known that had you gone through the downstairs.
We
so-
went through the downstairs as well,
Okay.
because the downstairs space is available, again, as we grow, it's available for lease as well,
Sure, I just,
so.
yes, that would not be a good fun
Is
thing.
this where the clothing shop is right now?
I mean, I think that there's still some discussion on, the space is huge. We don't need, right from the beginning, if it was just VMI getting to Main Street, they obviously don't need 8,000 square feet. So we're gonna take part of that and then gives us the opportunity to grow as more folks come on board. It comes with parking. There's a parking lot in the rear that is something that we don't have on Main Street to access a visitor center is, you know, where would they park to go in and find out what's going on. But I think VMI knows the impact of how many visitors they could serve if they were on Main Street as opposed to kind of where they're located. So,
Would he entertain a lease that was more than 1 year with the caveat that utilities would be negotiated after the first year?
I would think so. And I think Dave had mentioned maybe even purchasing the building down the road, you know, at least to purchase or something like that as well. So,
What's the arrangement right now with the convention?
so
That's what?
The arrangement right now.
I signed a lease last year in February. It is up in 2023, does that sound
I
right?
think it's right.
So we have all of this year, all of next year. We pay no rent, but we do maintain the property as far as cleaning and mailing it. So we have shot around the idea of we would fulfill our end of the bargain. We do have an out, don't we have an option?
60 days.
We have an option, which I found out about that, which I knew would make you happy. But I did talk to, there's a new director down there, Marnie Least, and I told her these conversations were happening because I didn't want her to hear it on the street. We maintain a very good
Or tomorrow in the
relationship
paper
with
for
them.
Bob, right?
Yeah, or watch them.
Or TV, yeah.
Yeah, but we have a very good relationship with them. But it costs us between $4,000 and $5,000. I did a cost analysis. It's between $4,000 and $5,000 to maintain that free rented space. So if we kept the satellite open, which I think that would be helpful to
Especially in
Lanier.
transition, yeah.
We've had a great relationship,
Yeah.
and they've had a lot of turnover, and COVID threw them for a loop as well. So to be a good partner, because we value Lanier, not very many places our size, a county of 30,000 has a state historic site. That relationship needs to be maintained. So Tiffany and I have discussed having someone stationed down there, still fulfill the cleaning obligation, but we would transition to moving up here, but try to follow through on what we started there.
And my side of that proposal would be that JCBT would cover that rent, the monthly rent. We wouldn't have VMI pay that as we've asked them to move in there. I think that would fall back into part of our budget that we would support that facility when the time came. There's always been discussion of a need of a building on Main Street as a visitor center. That's truly a visitor center where you can walk in, gather information, use a restroom, find out about what's going on. I mean, there's not a really iconic building like that. We've got the tour of the vaults are still
Yeah.
open and functioning. That's a great talking point as well. So, yeah.
We do have a truly functioning visitor center, but not reaching the capacity that Madison Jefferson County is capable of. We had 22,000 visitors last year, and I dare to say there should be a zero behind that. Because they will see everybody. that location will see everybody.
Mhm.
And for years, we talked about this years ago, and Curtis and I have talked about this, about having a clearinghouse of economic development, much similar to when the chamber brought in Main Street and EDP, and they served under one roof, and you know, Trevor, how that worked out. That worked out very, very well.
Very
And
good.
it was a very long relationship.
Yes.
And things go in cycles. But to be under the same roof and where your missions overlap, working together, but it's really hard to have the same director for two very different missions. You know, we've talked about with the chamber being the membership organization, that how do, and then VMI, it's about everybody. If you're involved in tourism, you play a part in what we do. But the chamber fulfills their members'
Yeah, you're
needs.
directing a 501c3 and a 501c6. One of them is membership driven, the other one is private, the other one is public.
Yeah,
And you're just meddling into all kinds
But-
of legal issues here and there.
but it's been done in
Well, yeah.
other communities.
But again, like we
And-
talked about,
but
those are
maybe-
big boy budgets.
But maybe it's
Yeah.
shared staff, you know, you have a cost savings because you have marketing for both or something like that. So,
Have you talked with any other organizations about that yet?
just a couple people and not directly with their directors, so, yeah.
Just as it worked it
Process.
I think, again, I think it's gonna be it's gonna happen in the stages,
Mhm.
but I think our biggest tourism partner could benefit from being on Main Street immediately.
How do you see it being used? If it's on Main Street, is it walk-in traffic? Whereas where you are now, you do have some space over there. You can park cars, and the connection between parking and the front door is pretty easy. Here, the parking lot is behind. It's large,
Sure.
48 spaces back
So the city just completed that parking study, and something that we've talked about is a new signage program to point people in the right directions to parking lots. And I believe that's a big tourism piece that we don't have to direct people to public parking and where to park and how to access that. So I think the signage is going to be
there.
another part that we would have to,
There's no back way into that building that's attractive.
Yeah, no.
No.
not currently, no. No.
Not currently. What do you mean?
The back door opens to the parking lot. I mean,
I know.
it's not pretty, but there is a door that gets in there. I mean, that can
You
be
never
fixed.
know.
Hey,
You
Dave,
never know. You
Curtis
might
is
be
gonna
able to
change
figure
it.
I know, that's
I'm
what
gonna
I
change
think, that's what I
I mean,
kind of took from that.
Might be bad now, but it doesn't have to
You
be.
have your outline, is that how you're gonna fix it?
Sure. Close that alley down.
It sounds like a heck of a deal, if you ask me.
I just think tonight I think we need to have Scott draft up what that lease looks like, and I would like for you to take a look at that with your guys' attorney. I mean, we
Well,
don't.
I have to take it to my board and my
And-
attorney as well, our attorney as well.
And it gives us time to talk to some of these other organizations, because, you know, they've got a lease that's getting ready to end. Okay, but if they just sign one that's 5 years out, then.
And to see if they're even interested.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
right,
we're
right,
making
right.
this assumption, but we have
Sure.
to see if they're.
But in theory, it sounds like a no-brainer.
As long as we can get the players involved to join in with us, yeah. Especially if they're currently paying rent somewhere and we have a space that is much more affordable than.
So it would be the MI, Chamber,
Main Street.
Potentially, yes, Main Street.
Main Street,
Arts Alliance.
Arts Alliance.
I don't know that you could get Historic Madison away from where they're at, but you still have M3 that may want a Main Street presence.
M3 is the music.
And the Sports and Rec Council at some point, again, is going to have somewhere to reside eventually. And I know with the way the county, I mean, your guys' offices have grown, there's always going to be a need for satellite, right? So
Do we have a boardroom?
there is a
boardroom.
A really cool boardroom.
It was cool.
The whole building was neat. Well, you said you walked through it, so.
Yeah, I've been through.
But I just wanted to
Sure.
kind of bring that up to everyone.
Yeah, of those entities under one roof would be pretty powerful.
I think so. I think so. As long as they play together, well.
There are some small offices.
If they don't, you put somebody in the
All
All the teller spaces are still there.
Yeah, I
we
know.
can- Yeah, there's plenty
Yeah.
of 8,000 square feet. You can put them where there's vaults.
Yeah, I might be careful.
So,
I liked it, but I don't know the combination. I don't think we'll be seeing Main Street for a while.
So, is there any action required on this, or we just?
no, I just wanted to, I think what the only action would be just, again, have Scott get us a,
Sure.
potentially what a lease looks like. Let Lucy explore a little bit more with her board. Because, again, they would be our main stakeholder in there. And then have the attorney look at it and see. And the length, I don't think will be an issue. I mean, I think we can probably drive that to whatever we wanted, the way Scott sounded. So,
Yeah, I would hate to have anybody make a move into the building based exclusively on a one-year lease. But to renegotiate the utilities makes total sense.
yeah. Yeah.
The next one, we go.
Yep.
Keep it going. Discussions.
Okay, since Ron mentioned it earlier about additional revenue.
I make a motion to raise it.
A second.
Wow.
All right, well,
Bob,
so what? What?
whoa.
Well, the reason, I mean,
Okay.
there's so many things that need to be done. And this is
Well,
how we fund.
So, I mean, let's,
Our rate is not particularly high as compared to other rates in the state.
so I broke down on that handout I,
Yeah, so,
okay. So I tried to, yes, give you some data that, you know, how many counties have 2%, 3%, you know, of the 78 counties that have that are listed on the DOR, there's only 78 listed. I don't know why there's less. I don't. And some don't have, if they've had any changes, it wasn't listed on there. I just pulled this data off of there. So 62 of the 78 are at 5%, which is where Jefferson County is at. The next part of that data that I looked at is the age of that rate. Ours is the fourth oldest rate at 35 years old. We haven't touched it since 1987. I would
Say it again, we haven't touched it since.
1987.
Yeah, you said that.
35 years. So I would like to make sure that we're clear for the record, an innkeeper's tax is not a local tax. It is a local taxpayer funded tax. It is truly a visitor's tax. The information that VMI had was our average nightly rate is around $100 a night. So we're talking about a $1 increase per night if we were to raise it 1%. So for every 1% that we raised it, I'll look at my numbers here, make sure I don't say this wrong. Our revenue would increase by 20%, which was equivalent to $100,000 on a $500,000 year like we had last year. So if we looked at 2%, it's $200,000. As long as it takes to get taxes changed and different things, so we're aware of that.
Which is about a year.
So when I spoke to our state rep, Randy Fry, because he has to be involved in the process, he cautioned me that this would take place during an election year. I cautioned him that that doesn't affect us locals because it's not a local tax. But it requires state rep, county council, commissioners. I mean, there's a whole list of who this has to touch. I wanted to start the conversation with us because we're essentially the ones that manage those funds. And being 35 years old doesn't even begin to impact inflation. And I know your initial question to me was, hey, where are we going to invest it? And I think if we have the money, we will never have a hard time finding a place to invest it since we've had $120,000 worth of requests on top of our
I
contract.
thought you had something in mind.
So, well, I mean, the only thing I had in mind was, like I told you, was, you know, we're going to have something with sports and rec. We need more marketing horsepower. We need a visitor center on Main Street. So, you know, some of those things are what crossed my mind first.
I agree, we're poised for a lot of growth here. Let's get with it.
Yes.
Do you
We
mind
need a-
if I add a couple of notes in on that?
Sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
Just tidbits. There's 80 counties and 78% of them are currently at 5%. And I realize it's only a 1%. This is just information, okay?
No, that's what we're doing.
So, yes, it has been a long time since it's been raised, so you're looking at the majority of innkeepers in Indiana, 78% of them are still at 5%. So we've got 33,000 people in Jefferson County. 6% community is Clark County, which is 118,000 residents. And yes, it is not a local tax, it is a revenue from pass-through. These things that I would like to just point out here, with the cost of everything going, and you know I'm an innkeeper, I'm a teeny tiny little innkeeper. We have increased our budget, we've increased the revenues to 538,000, so we've done really good even in last year. But last year we also, factoring in that we have a 20% increase in rooms from Mr. Bateman here with our 85 additional rooms, so.
But we only saw 25% of that return because they were only open 25% of the year last year.
Exactly.
So we can't, that number
We
doesn't
haven't-
represent
We
that.
haven't, it doesn't, that's exactly right, so we
Yeah.
haven't represented that yet. And there's about a 20% increase of additional Airbnbs coming in. So there's gonna be, I believe there's gonna be more revenue even coming in, but something else that's factoring in, that the overall cost, and Trevor's in this business as well, that we are looking at increased cost overall for everything. So innkeepers are having to raise their prices in addition to just what, it's not a $99 room anymore. I mean, all the cost of your labor and the supplies and everything that we're doing costs more. So my point is, I guess I just want to say that the destination of Madison, I don't want our cost to go, it's already 12%. You're looking at 5 for the innkeepers and additional 7, so 12%. And you look at where everything costs more, and then your gas and your food, that you want to be very affordable for people coming into town to spend the additional money on other things that they're going to do while they're here. And, this isn't Vegas, this isn't, Brown County or anything, but that's just my little sector, and I'm fine with it. I know that it takes a long time. I just don't think right now with the cost, it's a lot to absorb all at one time. It is just a little bit, but when you add it in with everything else, with the cost increasing, that I think that it would be more of a 1% impact.
I agree with you, and that's why my concern is our cost to invest back into the community is also increasing. And I mean, we're limited on revenue right now, and that is our only revenue stream until we can figure out a way to generate we talked with the rodeo of, hey, we want a percentage back from every ticket sold. We've talked about, trying to figure that out. So I agree 100%.
And we're looking at 365, but
So-
this revenue is not also, we haven't tapped into that convention market. We haven't tapped into those additional days, which if we look at 365 and focus more, because we already have our events, we already have the heads and the beds for events. We already have the weekends are covered. Your hoteliers are saying that we need people here
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday,
Mhm.
and during the winter when we're, it's not as busy. So if we factor in getting larger populations in during those times, we've talked about multiple ways to, increase visitor flow here, 2-for-1 nights, we need some restaurants open on Sunday and Monday, things like that to give visitors more of an experience to be here. So that, in fact, 365 is going to raise our revenue as well. So in the meantime, before the increase takes effect, there's other ways to look at getting additional people here, which is what that focus on the 365 is. Because we're here every day. We have expenses whether or not somebody showed up or not.
But in order to get people here, we gotta spend money. So, I don't know, it's chicken or egg.
That's the same conversation we have when we were asked about the rodeo, when we were asked about the regatta. And, I mean, it's, you know, if you build it, they will come kind of thing, almost. And I appreciate you coming and sharing that, definitely. And I mean, we're not in any position to make that decision at all. I just wanted to start the conversation. And quite honestly, I think 1% is, I don't think we need to look at any more than a 1% increase. It's kind of my personal feeling at this point, that I feel like that's fair and allows us really to, I mean, invest additional funds back into the tourism market that we're not able to invest in.
But one of the things that pops up in my head is, what would you say, 68 out of 90?
Well,
Would
so
you
on the
say-
deal, on the DRR's website, there's only 78 counties listed.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that's what's on their website.
And I'm
Gamekeepers, that's
probably
just the
looking right
ones I
at it.
know.
but-
So,
okay. I maybe look, all right, so there's 78 on that website. And I know you're saying 80, right?
I counted, I did the
No, that-
DOR,
that-
it doesn't matter,
No,
it's the
that-
same.
So let's say it's 78, 80, say it's right there. Then how many are 5% or less?
78% or
78.
just
Okay.
5%, 77.5%.
Okay, so
is-
78%. So 22%, I consider Madison, Jefferson County in the top 1 or 2% of the state of Indiana. Like, it's a destination spot. I think it is badass.
yes.
And I think that that's how I view this. And I see what you're saying. I don't discount that. However, we are not like 78% of Indiana. We are among the elite. And I believe
I
that.
agree with you. When I started-
genuinely believe that.
When I started looking at other counties, similar
Our
size.
oats at 8%, my goodness.
Yeah,
I don't
I
even
mean, I
know.
tried to look, I was trying to say, okay, they're similar to this county in size and
That's how I view
economic,
it.
you
I
know,
agree, I
factors,
just
but
said,
I think we're so
yes,
unique
a
that we need to.
affordability to come here and eat and shop and stay in town and do all those things factor into the whole experience. Just like Riverfest with the ticket sales, you know, they can come for $35 and see.
But that helps the
eight-
locals.
It helps the locals,
Yeah.
but you know, our visitors say when those bands go on sale and they come in, where in the world can you see 8 bands in 2 nights for $35?
Sure.
That's what the tourists are saying.
But that's, we struggle
Right.
because that band, the wristbands, we want to be able for our locals to
Sure.
afford them and enjoy it as well. So there's always that struggle with increasing, because we could increase the band prices, the wristband
Sure,
prices,
sure.
to get more money to fund, and you pop in here to have, you know, the bigger band as in entertainment.
Sure.
So we can blow it out for the 20th year anniversary. But it's all, you know, it is all about cost, and the bands cost way more than what they used to.
Sure.
I
But-
brought up this conversation 15 years ago. It felt like a lead balloon about raising bed tax. And if you're gonna be big, you gotta think big.
Yes.
And if you don't have any income coming in to market the town, you're not gonna make it.
And frankly, if we're talking about a 1% increase, which for beds in Madison, typically you're looking between $1 and $2 a night difference, somewhere in that realm.
That's
I
gonna be
just-
coupled
any
with
place like-
$20 to $25 additional in increasing your room rates because of all the higher cost of everything.
But any place that I've ever traveled, the hotel tax is always more than $5 or $6.
Yes, it is.
I don't even pay attention to it,
Right.
unfortunately. I look at how the quality of it is, and I look at my room.
Yeah, exactly.
They say it's
Never-
$159
Hard
a
up.
night or $189 a night, next thing you know, they give you $219, you're like, ah, well, all right.
Guess that's what it is.
You're already there, you're already sleeping, it's
That's
irrelevant.
right.
You're pulling in 10 and you got 2 kids crying.
Yes.
Well, here it is. Let's go.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, just please, God. You have continental breakfast, that's great.
The biggest single issue that I see with increasing it 1% is the public image of a tax increase that the local populace is going to relate as being something they're paying, but in fact, unless they're staying at our hotels down the street, they're not paying it.
And I think that's where,
That's,
I mean, they've had numerous, whether it was their strategic plan, jail meetings, we've had Main Street meetings. I think a couple public sessions, and I think that's part of the requirements to do it anyway. I mean, we're gonna have to be proactive in that,
yes. And
numerous of those.
and lean on our press to make
That's
sure
right.
that they let folks
Yeah.
know that it's not a local tax.
It's free money,
You could say,
it's free
You have to pay
money.
it when you go somewhere else, let's get even.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
I agree.
Yeah, let's get even. All right.
Yeah. I didn't say that, though. That wasn't me, Bob. It wasn't me.
I know we're not anywhere that requires a motion, but I would make a motion that if the way be clear, we pursue this,
6%.
the increase to 6%.
Yeah, not a 6% increase.
A 1% increase to 6% hotel tax.
But I'll, if you want,
If we
we can
could-
look to see what the process is and.
That's what I say, if the way be clear.
We'll go and kind of investigate that.
Is it difficult? Or just time?
Hasn't been done 35
Yeah, I mean, that may, you know, we may get into it and go, wow, that's why
It
they have
seems
changed
like-
it.
I have the, I mean, I saw the breakdown. Randy Fry sent me the codes, the requirements of what we have to do, and on the DOR website, there's a spot on thinking about increasing your rate. Click here to read how and why and those kind of things. So everything's there. It's just, you know, getting everyone together to do that. But it requires not just our local county council and county commissioners, but the state reps.
$300,000 in legal fees.
Oh, no, I don't think there's anything like
Would be a
that.
good ROI.
No. Okay.
The rate is kind of in an Indiana code, so that's.
Yeah.
why the-
And as I understand it, each county body like this has, it's not standard across the state. There are all different kinds of ordinances for different counties. They're not-
So the Board of Tourism is governed by state statute of how it's created and what it
It may be
is.
different for.
But again, there are a bunch of different ones.
Correct. Yeah, just focused
Like
on
you
us.
just look at, for example, Floyd Clark. They don't have a tourism board. It's all under the, and they don't have
They have a chamber. Does it run through Visitors
They
Bureau?
run
or-
their own. from
They
the
have
top.
a two-county visitors bureau
So,
that it's like JCBT, except it's both counties, and they don't have a VMI. Their VMI is melded in to their.
Economic development.
No,
It's back to that person I was
Just-
at
Yes,
the beginning.
it's one board, one
It's one board,
entity.
yeah.
I talked about that 2 years ago. That fell.
I went and visited.
Like instead of having, yeah,
Yeah.
just one
Yeah,
entity.
yeah. They were big. It's like one Southern Indiana or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah. And they have everything. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, they're big.
Well, also in doing that, they need to look at doing an automation of the collection of it to,
So I was working on that with the auditor's office, and she had reached out to, I believe, the State Board of Accounts on that, and there's some, I don't know that it can be done as easily as paying a bill online. There were some other reasons as to I don't know if it's about open door law stuff or what that creates, but
Because it was automated with the state and now it's
But
back
no,
to paper.
that's the only one yeah, that's correct. But we can't, I was hoping we could put an online portal, so you guys didn't even have to come here, you could just pay it online, and we could send reminders, not we, the auditor's office and treasurer's office. But I don't know if that's possible.
Because if you had everyone registered and you just had it tagged with an email, that all the people who don't do it or pay it on time, that would be an automatic
Well-
generator to
Well,
like,
we-
hello, you didn't pay.
Well, we have an
your-
ordinance that says there's a late fee that can be assessed too, but again, who's managing it?
That's one of the ways, you know, if you have the portal and you got a notification that says you haven't filed, even maybe you didn't have any, but you didn't file. So where's your filing and where's
Well,
the amount?
And we found that out we used that DOR report of innkeeper's tax collection. We realized that that's not, you know, we may show that it was a huge January, but it could have been people's December taxes that they paid. So it's not, there's no checks and balance there to make sure that it's.
A lot of the small shopkeepers do it. They.
Some of them do it quarterly. Yeah, that's what.
You know, I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, there's days that we come pick our check up, and the next day they have 2 checks in the mail where people have already paid, and they don't know that they're for this month or the previous month, or, yeah.
That, I think, would also generate and help in.
I agree.
In the collections process if we can, it's gotta be done somewhere.
Maybe more to come, I'd like for it to be.
Easy process. We
Yeah.
can figure that out.
Yeah.
Very good discussion. So, in the interest of time, so the strategic planning and the bylaws, we'll pick them up in March. I sent out a copy of some bylaws, just looking for comments, feedback. Look over those by March 28th if you could, and we can decide, yeah, we like those, no we don't, I'd like to change this. And then also on the strategic planning, just those goals, if we've got any other.
What is the strategic plan?
But
What are you referring to there?
I thought I handed out like 5 at last, it's not tonight, but it would have been in January's meeting. If I didn't, I will send them out again, so we have them, and just start looking over them, and it just kind of, just think about, you know, we've talked about a number of things. Does that fit? Do we have other things that we think fit better? But I think it's just, rather than being blown about by the wind, we have at least some things that are can help us. Okay. I just left the administration just remaining meeting dates, so you can see those. If you have any questions or want to move them, let me know. Like I said, they're all the 4th Monday except for the 19th, which is the 3rd Monday, first Monday of December, the 3rd Monday. Who are in the audience? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm moving to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you for coming.
I know.